All right, everyone, I'm back. We had a boring week all week, and then it looks like just late in the day, we got a little bit of action. So, just finishing setting everything up. All right, I can probably up the volume just a little bit there. And then let's go here. Good. Lean back today. Hold on. Just, there we go. It's standing all day. All right, so let me just do a little tweet that I'm live. And then share it with the Stats Edge Pro people, and then we're good to start. Awesome. So again, if you guys are new here, essentially what we do is mute myself. There we go. Basically, I just spend about an hour. I go through the markets, the equity markets, and crypto markets, and Forex, which I've been trading a bit now. Just kind of looking to see overall kind of what's going on. Hey, guys. From there, I'll go and I'll do some scanning for some individual names, things like that. And then that's kind of when I'll open up for questions and I'll do chart requests and stuff like that. Papers and junk. I should clean up. Yeah, and just do chart requests and try to figure out what's going on in the market and prepare for next week. And then tomorrow, later in the day, what I do is I'll just compile all of that into a single thing, which is what the Stats Edge Pro people get every day. So again, if you guys are new here, my website doesn't look the best, but it's up there. I essentially have a product in which every day the output of what you're going to see here, so about the hour and a bit that I do, the output is what the Stats Edge Pro members get. So it will be basically just here's my thoughts on the Forex markets and the equity markets and the crypto markets. And then here's a couple names that I'm interested in. And that and my little Discord room as well. Not an alert service. I'm not I don't really believe in those too much. So, I it's more of my research, right? So that's kind of the point behind that. But let's first go through, and there wasn't many of them this week, but I always like to go through the videos on my channel that I did this week. Yeah, just these short videos right here, just to see if there's anything that, of them I've traded. There was only 3, just because, right, it's a short week and all that. And just to show you guys again, because there's people that follow these daily and just say, hey, this is what I did or what I didn't do with them. But again, this is just like most things on my YouTube and everything. It's a snippet of what people get from the main product. So the first one is INVA. Basically, I was looking for INVA above this area right here, and we got that on the next day. So I am long some of this with a stop down here. It's pulling back a bit. It may have been a good kind of break even type play, but we won't find that out until Monday. Next was ear. Nothing with ear yet. This is probably one of the main reasons I'm waiting for the close. I'm waiting for the end of the day in order to enter stuff because I wanted above this level, and you can see it spiked there in the morning and then sold off. So more and more, I'm just kind of sitting out the entire day when it comes to my swing trading and just showing up for that last hour and trying to gauge where things close. And then the last was CRSR, Corsair. And I took some of this actually today, I believe, right on the close right there. Just looking for this one to break this area. I mentioned in the video that this 28 area has just been massive on both sides. And it's got like a 22% short float, which is pretty substantial. So just going to see if we can get above over 30, which is probably, if you were the patient person, it's probably where the entry you'd wait for is a close over 30. Every time we get up there, you see the topping tails that are going on here. But if we can get over 30, maybe those 20% of the float that's short, they start to get a little bit nervous and start to cover. So that's the idea behind that, and that's all of the things that I did for this week. So let's get right into looking at what the markets did this week. So we'll start with RSP. I use RSP. I look at the SPY too, but I use RSP as a little bit better of an indicator. And the reason for that, for people who are new, is essentially just it's an equal weighted version of the S&P 500. So, things like Apple and Google and Microsoft have way less weight when it comes to this than when it comes to the RSP. So I think this is a better representation of the market than something like the SPY, which is very heavily weighted to the big kind of FANG names. So it means if the SPY is selling, then those giant FANG names are selling, and if the SPY is rising, this is more of an indication of what the market as a whole is doing. And just like the SPY, we had a little pullback today. Again, you go on Twitter and everyone's losing their mind again, but we're down 0.5%, right? So this area that I drew in, this is going to be the real important one for me, just to make sure that if we come back to this, are we going to hold and bounce, or is this going to be the start of something a little bit more significant than this? But just note, it has been very much a buy the dip kind of market. People who have shorted into these dips basically ever since, the lows here have been getting wrecked. So I think that's kind of a self-fulfilling psychological thing where it dips, people short, it rips up in their face and they lose money. They go into the next one, it dips, they short, rips up in their face and lose money. So I think what happens is a lot that as it starts to bounce, people are quickly to cover their shorts and get out. Go back. But yes, that's what I'm watching here in the RSP, is just this little area right here, just to see when we pull back to this, if we pull back to this, does it hold? Can we not even get there? If we look at that on the actual SPY, you can see I actually drew in this line earlier, this kind of, let's actually make sure these pre and posts are off. Oh yeah, that is okay. So yeah, the SPY is only down a little bit more than the RSP. So again, less than 1% down day. And this was the same kind of area that I was looking at, is what happens when we get to this. Does it bounce? Because if you look at, what's been happening is we break out, we pull back to the breakout area, and then we go, right? And more accurate, what I've been seeing is we break out, we pull back to the breakout area, everybody freaks out and loses their mind. Say this time it's over. And this pattern has just kind of been going on over and over and over again, right? Breakout, pull back into it a bit, go. At some point, it will end, but statistically, and this is right, I'm called Stats Edge Trading for a reason. I like to study market statistics and use those as a guide for what to do. And it's important to note that V bottoms in the market are incredibly common. Quite often, part of the saying is a bottom is an event, right? It's a single day, usually big volume, high range, that type of thing. Whereas tops are usually more processes. They're usually, right, the market doesn't spike up and then tank, unless it's Bitcoin. So, it's one of those things that, you just got to keep in mind that if you are shorting into this right now, it's generally not the way that I like to play the market short. I like to buy dips and short rips, just because, again, if you go back all through history and you take a look at all the market tops, very rarely will you just see a bottom, right? So, like this one, for example, even the pandemic, where this kind of came out of the blue, you can see it took an incredibly long period of time to get going. And then, even when it sold off the first time, it had a hell of a bounce before the market really got going. So, what I'm waiting for before I'll kind of switch my position into a more bearish stance would be just this. I want to see a bounce fail. And that's when I'll be more interested, right? Kind of in this area. If you see this bounce happen and then the bounce fail, that's kind of where I'm more interested. Because ever since then, it's just been up and up and up and up and up and up. So, right. The trend is the friend until the bend in the end. So, okay. All right, so that's the SPY. Again, when I look at the SPY, I almost see an ETF of the biggest market stocks at this point. Next, I always like to look at the IWM, which is just our small cap names, and that's down a little bit more, but not really significantly. The SPY or the IWM is generally a higher beta name, which just means it moves more than the overall market or the S&P 500. But right, there's still nothing to see here. Right, I drew this in a long time ago. You can see the tops that are happening here, and then I drew kind of that in a long time ago, and you can see the bottoms that are happening in through here. So until one of these gets broken one way or the other, I'm not really super interested in kind of predicting the IWM. It's just in a range, which if you study the second year of a bull market, I know JC from All Star Charts has been doing a lot of this. This is common, right? The second year of a bull market is generally a mess, and that's kind of what we're seeing. So it makes it a little bit more rough from a swing trader's point of view, which I am, but it just means that you've got to be a little more selective, and when you really get a winner, you kind of have to milk that for all it's worth, right? Because nothing's really, rocketing anymore. It's a lot of sideways back and forth. Now I like to go over to Koifin. I'll drag this in here. So again, what the Stats Edge Pro membership is, if you're interested, is just essentially the output of this, in which it's $50 a month, so it's right a buck something a day. It's a cup of coffee a day is where I tried to price it, and it's just the output of all this, just what I've been looking at and why throughout that time. So what this chart is, it looks like a mess, but it's basically each of the individual sectors that make up the S&P 500 and how well they've done. And sometimes you can glean some interesting stuff from this. I don't really see much right now. It is kind of interesting that at the bottom we have real estate, industrials, and healthcare at the very bottom of this. And then at the very top, we have consumer discretionary and technology and communications. So the top three seem to be very much what people would look at as risk on names, or names that are, names that are commonly looked for, where, so basically XLY, consumer discretionary, right? Think of your apples and, I always say shit that you buy that you don't need to buy, right? And the consumer staples is shit that you buy that you need to buy. Staples are food and toilet paper and things like that. The other side of that is looking at Ring cameras. Just an animal, I think. Yeah, and then at the bottom we see real estate, which is generally a pretty risk off type of name, right? People need to live regardless of what the market's doing. Industrials and healthcare, right? People need to do those regardless of what's going on. So yeah, that is interesting to me. That of for the week anyway, it's worked a lot more in the favor of kind of that risk off stuff. Yeah, and for the day, just for today, kind of a mixed bag, but utility and consumer staples are on the bottom here. Um, Materials and energy are on the top. Yeah, I don't really glean much information from that at all, which is fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Looking for a trading mentor, is that something you do? I do sometimes. To be honest, I've been trying to get out of it a bit just because it's time intensive. Not to be an arse, but fire me an email. If you go to my website, there's a contact us kind of section. Fire me an email with kind of what you're after, and I'll take a look from there. This site is a great one that I've gone to for like 15 years of my life. I'll just put it right here. It's Forex Factory, but even if you don't trade Forex, it's very interesting where it basically just lists these are all the major economic events for the day and then their importance. So the more red it is, the more they kind of determine that that's an important type of a thing. So you can see for the US on Monday, there's really nothing. Federal budget balance, I don't think means shit really, but I thought that the CPI and PPI out today would actually move the market a bit, and that didn't. It seemed to be the kind of tech sell off a little bit after that was the big deal. So that's the equity market, right? So at the end of each of these, I want to summarize them. I may start to cut this up and upload it because I'm open to feedback. But from just what I saw when I was on vacation, those little live stream snippets you guys seem to like it better than those short videos. So I may do both, where I do the short videos, which actually do really well on TikTok, but really crappy on YouTube. And then I may do those other ones as well. But so yeah, to summarize, I guess my thoughts on the equity market is, we're obviously pulling back. We're pulling back in a bull market. And until we get some sort of change in trend, it's just going to be, to me, a pullback in a bull market. So I'm going to treat it like a pullback in a bull market and look to kind of sit on the sidelines and wait to see some strength come in and then look to kind of get involved then. At some point that will certainly stop working, but it's one of those things you just want to keep going until it stops working, right? And so far, if you've been selling the dips, you've been getting hammered, and if you've been buying the dips, you've been doing fantastic. So I'm going to continue to buy dips until the market, says, hey, it dips and then it pops and then it breaks the low of that dip, right? Because if you boil it down, the market, that's an uptrend and that's a downtrend. And it really can be that simple where, what's happening right now all the time in the market is just this, right? Where it dips, buyers come in, and then it pops, right? So what I want to do, and you'll actually recognize what this pattern is, right? Once we get a dip and that dip fails to make a new high and then does something like that, that's when I'll be a little bit more interesting, and that's how kind of your head and shoulders forms. And that's why, again, these patterns, I always say the patterns mean nothing, but the psychology behind them is everything. So a head and shoulders is simply just a failure right here to make a new high in an uptrend, right? So shorting that failure is kind of more what I'd be interested in as opposed to trying to call a top. Makes you feel like a big man when you call a top, but really there's nothing interesting there. Just looking over at one of my chats. Hippo. All right, so now into crypto and FX, and move that both there. So this is the platform I use for crypto and FX, and then anything that I just can't do within Trade Ideas, which is kind of my primary one. And if you're interested in any of the tools I use, this is actually a great way to support the channel and the stream. Hey, Sam. If you go and you buy either of those, if you're interested in them using that link, then you can, they give me a cutback, right? So full disclosure there, but again, if you're trying to support the channel at all, it's a good way to do it. So let's take a look at, and let's go to the 4-hour chart, which is what I'm using more and more for my crypto and FX trading. I posted on Twitter. Yeah, Sam, you just missed that. We were talking about definitely not overreacting on a less than 1% downtick, but something to watch for sure. Yeah, I've been posting a little bit more of my trades on the crypto market. But yeah, so I posted this. So again, if you're not following me on Twitter, it's just, I feel like I'm just like plugging everything today at Bond Power for now. I have the Stats Edge trading name that I have to just move it over. But basically, I was looking for an RSI divergence. So if you don't know what that is, it's basically when price makes a higher high and your momentum indicator makes lower highs. And I was noticing that a lot there. And I just said, hey, I was triggered short overnight. Basically, I just used stop limits to get into crypto right at this area. And then, this happened the next day. So that was a great trade, right? That was a month maker, right? Getting short right there. I feel like I should make a clickbait video that says how I called the top in Bitcoin. But from that, I actually got out of most of the position in this area right here. And then I re-entered short kind of right in here as we broke down from there. If you're a fib guy, I drew at a fib target on this for if we continue lower. Looks like it's around 35,000. I don't follow those strictly. But yeah, so I basically shorted today when we broke back down. So kind of my synopsis on Bitcoin is that it's now in a downtrend. And this is more or less what I would look at when I was talking about the equity markets, is that what I want to see for it to officially kind of be a downtrend is that, right, we have to have the sell-off. That's bounce that we're having right here has to fail. And when this breaks in a continuation lower, then that's our official downtrending move in Bitcoin. So I'm just kind of shorting in anticipation of that. And if we get back up here, I'll stop that. And what I'm doing is I'm basically risking a chunk of what I made on this trade because, that was awesome. Basically, that was like I looked away and I looked back and I was up using leverage on this short. I was up significantly on my account with, again, just my risk was just a new high, right? So I risked this and then I made that. And it's like one of those, try not to get hyperbolic or anything, but that was definitely a month maker, right? That will feed everyone for a month, that one trade. So the main thing I want to look at is that this gray bar that I pointed here, that it just corresponds with these lows. That is now kind of acting as resistance there. So that's my main kind of focus when it comes to crypto, is to say, hey, is that, is that holding or is that not? And what are we going to do about that? So as long as we're below this gray bar, I'm going to remain short, and as long as we're above it, I'm going to remain long. And I actually have this list of crypto, which is everything that Kraken has, which is kind of my crypto of choice, and I'm doing a lot of just trading them. Another thing that I actually tweeted about quite a bit was my long in algo. I don't even know what the hell this does right here. And then I got out kind of right there, a little bit above or a little bit below, I can't remember, about $2, let's say. I entered about 175 and I was out at $2. So the reason I bring that up is because I'm watching this again to see if we kind of get back above $2. I may enter again here and then look to target this high right here, possibly. And again, these are just great trading instruments. Kraken, again, not affiliate with them unless they want to reach out to me, but they do offer shorting and leverage on some of the coins, and some of them they don't. So Algo, for example, I think it's 2 times leverage they give you. Whereas Bitcoin, you can get up to 5 times. Right? Dogecoin, you can't get any, and that kind of stuff. So it's a security by security basis, which kind of makes sense to me. But that's just kind of what I'm looking at. Again, I don't know anything about these coins, but I love trading crypto simply because it does not close. So within Kraken, man, I feel like they should sponsor this stream. But within Kraken, you can set get me in on a stop limit if this price hits, and then in the same kind of order, you can say, when I get triggered, put out my stop loss. So I can set up a trade and then use TrendSpider's alerting system, and I can set up the trade, and because I'm always looking at kind of the 4-hour chart, I can just ignore everything else and just say, okay, I've set up the trade, and now I'm going to go and do whatever. Look at it on my phone from the TrendSpider app every 4 hours, and then just ignore it. So it removes that the fear that I have from trading equities, where there's all these halts and then the market closes and all this stuff. I for one greatly look forward to a day in which we get into the equity space, these 24-hour 365 type of markets, just because they are very, very powerful. Just to be able to set out your orders, walk away, set an alarm to check something in 4 hours from now, see what the next candle brought you, and go from there. It's like, I think a lot of people, they're worried about the 24-hour markets because they think it means they need to trade 24 hours a day, and how am I going to do that and all of that. But I just don't look at it that way. I just look at it as I can let robots deal with more of it. I think that's all I want to really look for. Yeah, that's the only ones that were kind of interesting to me, is that algo, just because it's been insanely strong. So that's a trend I want to try to participate in a few times if I can. I have two trades on right now in the FX market. So let me take a look at those. NASDAQ, New Zealand US dollars. I shorted some against this base right here. Let me zoom out for the reason why. Is basically we have this area of congestion going on back here. So we have resistance in through here and then support in through there. So that's my reason for that short. That's working out fairly nicely. I'm also short USD yen right in here. And basically this one's in this really huge kind of symmetrical triangle. You can see going back forever. and then it just bounced up to the 200-day moving average, and then also this last area of resistance. So I'm just shorting in through there, hoping that we get at least to the bottom of this, and then if we break this, then it may actually be a pretty decent trade. Again, liking Forex for the same reason that I like crypto trading, where it's just, the 4 hour chart and away you go. I need to start getting into some algo work, building algos on trading these things, but that's kind of the main reason that I'm doing that and enjoying it. Crypto's been very profitable. Forex, I'm still kind of getting my feet wet. I think my problem with Forex is I tried to trade initially on an hour or a half hour chart, and did okay, about break even. But that's just not where my strength as a trader lies. It's always lying on the more kind of longer term area. So that's what I'm watching. Another Forex pair I'm watching is where is the USD Cad? And I'm Canadian, so this is one of the reasons that I watch these. Oh, poop. That sucks. I was actually looking to buy, and I just lost track of it, over this candle on Usd Cad. Just because you can Google a whack off bottom, and that's kind of looks like what we have here. We basically have this area of support right here that got undercut for a bit and now is popping up. So I think we could, test this and then maybe surpass it if things really get going. So I was looking for an entry there. I missed that, and I won't be entering, with just, I don't even know exactly when the close is on the FX market, but it's soon. And that's the difference is crypto's 24/7, FX closes on Friday. It may depend on the actual country that it's in, but that sucks. I missed that, but that's what I was looking for there. Raz says, yes, had the same problem with Forex on the shorter time frame, switching to longer time frames now. Yeah, that was the same thing. I had some early luck, and then the problem is, so I day trade via prop on equities. I swing trade for my own money on equities. I swing trade crypto. It's like you spread yourself too thin, so you go and you go from there. Close it. Oh, awesome! Thanks. Close at 5:45 Eastern, so about an hour and 15 from now. I don't know. I'll look at it if it pulls back here, maybe, but that just might be a missed one that sucks. And it missed for now. It may give me another chance to get in. Who knows? So that is the crypto market. So crypto, I'm still bearish on everything except maybe this algo USD. And I need to see this kind of pop up and retake and hold above 2 before I'd be interested. But I kind of look at Bitcoin as like the market, right? The equivalent to like the S&P 500 for stocks. And this is obviously bearish until something changes. Again, based on the 4 hour chart, which is my time frame before crypto bugs go insane. But I think if we break this 4,000, I think 35 or 40,000. What's this? 42,000. I think we could probably tag 35,000. I've actually got some bids out there, and then we'll see. Oh, 4:45 Eastern, so in 15 minutes. Yeah, so I'm not gonna. I've got those two trades I told you I'm going into the end with. So, yeah, and take a look at. I don't know what the rules are in the U.S., but there's some prop firms out there for Forex where they'll give you large accounts for little money. Do your due diligence. I'm not allowed to talk to who I'm with and stuff, but do your due diligence to make sure. But there we go. So that is that. Now let's get into scanning, and this is where I'll take a look at chart requests if anyone wants me to take a look at it. Again, I will look at it from my time horizon, which is swing trader, so a week, give or take, and we'll go from there. And I think there was already one with ZM, I saw. Obviously in a downtrend, right? Low, lower high, lower low, maybe a little bounce, gap down. And now it's just this base, right? I wouldn't be buying this base just because we've got, it could close the gap. So that might be a play. But everything's pointing lower on this one. So for me, I would maybe look to short if we get under that. What is interesting with Zoom is that we were up 2% today. You know, it's a Unity software, right? That's interesting. I think the trend's might be a little long in the tooth. You just kind of close this gap right here. But, right, nice uptrend. Every pullback's being bought. Again, outperform the market. And that's kind of what I'm going to be looking at a lot is how did this individual name do when the market was weak over the last 4 days or so? Because I've just noticed that when these bounces come, which they always, for now, are coming, and again, there will be a day where it doesn't work, and that's where risk management comes into place. But it's, just away she goes. So, I would want a little bit more of a base or a pullback. And then I say 140 is your number, right? You obviously had some sellers come in at that 140 before. If you break 140, maybe take a run at the close of the gap, which isn't very much, but it's an interesting look. Nice inverse head and shoulders happened right here. And then we're pushing up. A little bit of an RSI divergence. Not insane, but just showing that maybe some running out of steam here. For me, it would just be nothing to do. It's crazy they're not affected by the whole China stuff because Unity does, like, they're the game engine one, right? So you'd think if China's going to be building and doing less games could be an issue. Now, crowd, this is interesting to me. This was actually on an algorithm that I'm building for the Stats Edge Pro people, in which as I mentioned, I'm doing 99% of my trading now, all of my swing trading in that last hour of the day. Basically, just I come in for the first hour, I put on a couple day trades, I do whatever I want to do, or whatever I have to do for consulting arrangements and everything that I have throughout the day. And then I come back in the last hour, I trade that last hour, and then I go and I do all of the scanning and I build up the report for the Stats Edge Pro members so that they can get that, by the nighttime, so they have time to look at it before the next day's open. And this actually showed up on that algo, which is a pullback algo. So you have some statistics, I'll say, already on your side that this thing may bounce. But it is an interesting pullback to the 20-day moving average right here, a little bit under these prior highs. So I would say if you can retake these highs, this would be one that I'd be interested in. So really just yesterday's open is where I'd kind of take a look at that one. Let's go through and start scanning, just seeing what's on. So again, my focus is going to be what did well during these last few days selling off. Like this one, for example, would have been great. It's up 9% today. I'm not going to buy it after a 9% up move, but I want to take a look at the way that goes. what actually are we off highs here? I'm just seeing panic like all over the place. I just want to see how much we are off of highs. Oh, Bitcoin's moving. SPY. Sorry, I'm doing this on another screen, but if we go from the high print, 1.7%. Yeah, so it's just crazy that I see it. It's funny. It's like the end of the worlders, right? Every time the market down ticks, you hear, "All right, this time it's over. It's the end." Right? It's the end. It's the end of the world. It's going, and it's like one day they're gonna be right, and they're just gonna be obnoxiously loud about it, and then they're gonna forget the other 17 times that every time the market down ticked and they said it was the end of the world, they were dead wrong on. And I'm seeing it again, and it's like every time I see it, I just want to go and just buy the market. 28% short float on this one. This is interesting. Let me double check this. Yeah, that's not right. This probably is earnings, I would say. Let me look at it on. I love that. Look at it on TrendSpider here. Oh, see, they don't have that. That's interesting. Because if you look at it here, it's not there. Unless it was this. Oh, duh. There we go. So now it just must have been some news that people hate it. I just got excited. I went and I checked another website, and it looks like that 28%. It will go from there. So yeah, I was excited because it said 28% short, and then I went to shortsqueeze.com and they're saying 5% short. So at the very least, they don't know. So again, this main scan that I'm looking for is just stuff that's above its short-term moving average, because the market's obviously below its short-term moving average. So I'm just looking for stuff that looks like it could be holding strong. Like I kind of really like the look of this right here. And we get this push up off the lows and the sideways chop, and then we can rip from there. Possibly, right? Who knows? You never know with these things, right? But just a nice little tight base with a 15% short float after that move. That's pretty substantial. KMPH. If I remember, is that a utility? No, it's pharma. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a slow burner, but it might be turning a bit. You know, you could probably target 10 on that one maybe, but not one of my setups personally. Man, you can't keep BJ down. This one's very interesting too. That's a strong stock. CCCS. What do you do? And it looks like a little maybe cup and handle going on here, right? We got a cup, and then we've got our sideways consolidation here for a handle. Jesus. Hyperscale. This all seems like bullshit wording. Cloud-based software as a service that connects trading partners, facilities, commerce, supports mission-critical artificial. Man, they just took every buzzword and just hucked it into their description. Yeah, that kind of scares me in and of itself, right? When you're just cramming every buzzword known to man in your description, it's like, what do you do? It's like, you know, Tesla doesn't have to pad its stuff with everything going on. This is interesting. I don't know what was going on here, where I traded this, but anytime I see lines like that on a chart, right, it's just lines that I put there forever ago for entry, stop, and target. A little bit slow. Digital Realty. You see everything on this name, on this list, just because it's basically looking for stuff above a moving average is strong, then, you know, it's kind of my go-to when the market's a little weak. It's just, okay, what wasn't weak? Whoa, fizz. Big short float in that one. CEI. That's a monster. Nothing for me to do there. I'm not gonna buy something up 200% in a few days, and I'm not gonna short something up 200% in a few days. So I just look at something like that and I just go, okay, somebody's very happy there and somebody's very sad, and I'm just gonna move on to the next one. Fubo's interesting here. Right, it's got this little resistance area going on right here. And broke out of that, pulled back right to it. Now it's looking like it's strong a little bit there. So if, right, that this area holds and we push through 30, this might be interesting. We've got this kind of downtrend going on here-ish. Yeah. And a 19% short float, almost 20% short float. So I think this is going to go on the list for sure. It's really bucking the trend of the market. Bought some Fubo yesterday. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's, again, I love seeing, right? It's up 3% today. The markets were down, what was it, like half a 3/4 of 1%. So, again, stay off Twitter for a bit, because a little bit I've seen, it's everyone just losing their mind. The market was down 3/4 of 1% today. So that one's interesting to me. And that's no, it's not. So is there any, I've been doing a lot of anchored VWAP analysis as well. Talked about this in the member webinar. We've got a once a month member webinar for Stats Edge Pro. Oh, and look at that. It's hold Elda's support in through there. So this one's interesting to me. This one might be the video that I do. Probably not today. I'm just not feeling the best. So after this, I'll probably just take the rest of the day off and do something else. Yeah, that Fubo does look, more I think about it, looks good. Not a whole lot else I'm seeing, right? A lot of these type of things, we do have a little base, a little shelf on this one. Earnings a little bit far away. And we break 50, we can get to 60. That's okay. Oh, and that KMPH that you asked Sam, that did show up on that list. Again, all of my scans are, because a lot of them are hard to share, just because there's a lot of customs and everything involved. They're all on the Stats Edge trading website as well, as part of the subscription for both TrendSpider and Trade Ideas, and then anything that I build and use in the future will be added there as well. And again, that's right above me right there. So I'm going to finish going through this list. And if anyone has anything else, any more symbols you want me to look at, let me know. But really, I'm not seeing an insane amount of damage done. Like the market's 2% off of highs. Today's candle wasn't very pretty. However, I've done some studying on the market, and generally speaking, you're better to buy when it closes at the lows like that than you are to short when it closes at the lows like that. So the ultra short came through that, which makes sense for relative strength. SELB. It just doesn't, looks nice, but just doesn't move enough. That's another thing I look at is not just how clean the setup is, but what is what are the probabilities, or how much capital would I have to allocate in order to make a decent return? So like, I think this one's a perfect example with SNR, where it's looking nice, it's holding this gap, it's holding strong as well, but from here to these highs is a buck, right? So percentage, again, if you can make that I'm not gonna scoff at that on a percentage gain, that's fine. But it's just one of those that it just seems like it's things like Fubo, there's more of a potential of things really getting going with this. So there's just less of a, if it goes up to these highs, right? If we get up to these highs, that's 35. We get up to these highs, 60. So there's just more of potential of volatile movement. So you could measure it however you want. Most measurements would be the same, but like an ATR, for example, I'll if the ATR is super tiny, then I'm not really interested in it. Just keep my eye on Bitcoin up here. Because again, I do have a levered up short position, so I just want to make sure I've got a stop in place, so I don't have to, but I have that monitor up there, so I might as well keep an eye on it. This up is interesting to me. It's already on the list for the Stats Edge Pro people, but it's just I like, again, if you want to Google the whack off bottom, but it's essentially just a support area that gets broken and then kind of immediately retraced. So it just shows, right, it acted as support here, and then it did all through here with a little bit of an undercut. So that undercut, an old school saying for it's an undercut and rally. It just, trap in short, call it a bear trap, call it whatever you want. But it just, as these things get going, if they get going, I just noticed that, all the people who sold in through here are going to try to grab it and participate in the long side. So, again, I already have this one on my watch list for the Stats Edge Pro people, and that's, over $8 is roughly where I'm interested there. But that's really more or less all I'm seeing. Well, I got a couple names there, but I think Fubo is going to be the one that I will make the video about. That will be uploaded tomorrow. Xilinx is interesting, but Xilinx has a deal that's in the works with AMD. So they're gonna trade in parallel, so I'm not interested in that. So, all right, guys, I think that's going to be it for me. Plans for the channel, I guess, while I'm here talking about it, I'm going to do more videos. Again, you guys really seem to like the longer, more educational videos. Just views were okay, but when it came to comments and likes and stuff, so just note that I watch that stuff because I don't know what the hell I'm doing, right? I'm not a YouTube expert, or else I wouldn't be doing it for 10 years with a smaller following. But so whatever you guys seem to like, that's what I'm going to do more of. So more videos. I may do another couple live streams if I can think of content that's a little bit different, because again, the pro membership is me doing this work for you every night. So whatever I do, I want to make it different enough that hey girl, make it different enough that this friggin' thing, make it different enough that I'm not kind of just recycling that same content that people are paying for. But I want to do more streaming, and I want to do more, it's like every time I get back from vacation, you get that kind of surge of energy, and I just want to make sure I take advantage of that. So video ideas and stuff, you can always, under any video, just leave a comment. I read all of them. I don't get enough, so it's too bad. And then Twitter, hit me up on Twitter too, and we'll chat about whatever it is that you'd like to see. So again, on your way out, if you could hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, all that stuff, right? YouTube sends me an email once a week and says, hey, if you want more people to watch your stuff, you got to beg for likes. I hate it, but if you can do it, that'll be great. And I will see you guys later.